Hello and welcome. The purpose of this video is to take you through the complete installation process of our motorized retractable screen systems. To begin, let's go through the basic tools needed to complete the installation process, keeping in mind the 3/8 inch by 12 inch drill bit needed for an outside above header installation. There are two different types of installations you can do for our motorized retractable screens. One is an outside above header, which is installed on this type of garage door, where we're doing a face mount on the outside of the garage. For an outside above header installation, you would be providing the jamb to jamb width of the opening. In this case, let's say it is 16 feet from jamb to jamb. This is the width measurement that you would provide when ordering. The overall size of the retractable screen system that you would receive would be 16 feet 5 inches. This would provide you with a 2.5 inch overlap on one side and a 2.5 inch overlap on the other side. If you have less than a 2.5 inch overlap on either side, you will have to specify the exact overall width of the housing canister needed when ordering. The other option is to do an inside under header mount, where you would install the housing underneath the header and the side rails along the side of the jamb. For an inside under the header installation, you would again be providing the jamb to jamb width of the opening. In this case, again, let's assume the jamb to jamb width is 16 feet. This is the measurement that you would provide when ordering. The overall size of the retractable screen system that you would receive would be 15 feet 11 inches, or 1 inch less than the jamb to jamb width provided. This ensures enough room to mount the housing between the jambs of your opening. The prep work that we needed to do for this garage door opening is we removed the vinyl siding underneath the soffit. We also removed the brick molding that was around the garage door opening. This will allow us to use our rail system and replace it where the brick molding was, and our housing will replace where the brick molding was at the top. There are 4 key elements in installing the quick bracket on an outside above header. The first is to make sure that the quick bracket is installed between 12 and 20 inches from both sides. What we don't want to do is install the quick bracket farther inside the opening. That will cause the housing to bow and bend on your header. The second element of installing the quick brackets is to make sure that both quick brackets are level to each other. You can do this by using a laser level or striking a chalk line. The third element in installing the quick bracket is to make sure that you have the quick bracket low enough to allow you to raise the housing up and insert it into the slots. One way of doing this is to ensure that you have at least 2 inches underneath your soffit. The fourth element of installing the retractable screen is often to try to get the retractable screen as high up above the opening to prevent anything from hanging down into the garage door opening. This is an example where we are limited on how high we can install the screen. But if we did have endless amounts of mounting surface up here, you can mount up to 10 inches above the daylight opening for your quick bracket. One thing to keep in mind with our retractable screens is we do not provide the fasteners for both your quick bracket and to mount your side rails. We do this because we often do not know the substrate you're going into. Wood being the case here, but also it could be stucco, concrete, or a metal header. Drill through the header for the power cord to enter into the garage. Depending on the material you are drilling through, a 3/8 by 12 inch long drill bit should work. Insert the 2 strap brackets onto the top of the housing. The person on the motor end will need to thread the power cord through the hole that was just drilled through the header. With one person at each end, lift the housing and push the back surface of it flat against the quick brackets on the building. Slowly lower the housing down so that the mounts insert into the quick brackets. Inspect both mounts to be sure they are seated properly in the quick brackets. Be sure the housing is centered with the door opening. Then fasten the strap brackets to the building face. It is critical that the strap brackets are anchored securely to the header. If they are not securely anchored to the header, the housing may detach from the building. Identify the proper fastener for your strap bracket installation. These are not provided by Stow-It Industries because of the variety of building surfaces. Measure the distance from underneath the housing to the ground on both sides of your daylight opening. In colder climates, the rail can be cut shorter to allow for concrete movement during freezing and thawing seasons. It is important to measure both sides when you are cutting the rails, as the right and left sides may be slightly different heights. After we have measured for our rail height, the next thing is to mark and cut them to length. Make sure that you measure from your rail cap down to the bottom of the rail, ensuring that you do not cut the rail cap off. Using the slots provided on the back side of the rail, drill a hole through the front surface. Then use a 1/2-inch drill bit to counterbore the pilot hole on the front side of the rail. Use this for an access point for mounting. Slide the rails up into the crossbar guide, ensuring the keter is inserted into the channel of the rails. Identify the proper fastener for your rail installation. The screws you choose need to be at least 1.5 inches long. These are not provided by Stow-It Industries because of the variety of building surfaces. Slightly fasten the screws to hold the rail in place, but do not tighten them completely. Using a level, check to see if the rails are plumb from side to side and from front to back. Adjust the rails in or out where needed. We must first provide power to the motor to allow adjustment for the rails. To do this, hardwire your unit or attach a male plug to your pigtail and insert it into a wall socket. Cycle the screen up and down to ensure the rails are level. Make sure the rails are evenly situated next to the housing. Finish tightening the rail screws when you're sure of their proper placement. Insert the color-matched hole plugs. These are provided with your screen system. The final main step in installing the retractable screen is setting the limits to the motor. That's where we're going to tell the motor to stop at the top and stop at the bottom. And we can do all of this with our handheld remote. The first step in setting the limits is to have the motor recognize your handheld remote. And to do this, your first step is to press the up button and the down button together at the same time. The second step in setting the limits to the motor is checking the direction, making sure that up is up and down is down. If you check it and it is incorrect, you can change the direction of the motor by pressing the My or the middle button down until it jogs, and now that's changed the direction of the motor. The next step in setting the limits is to start with your upper limit of the motor. Run your screen up to where you would like it to stop at the top, making sure that you lower it 1/2 inch than where you ultimately want it to be, because once you save the limits, the motor is going to tick up 1/2 inch. Once you've got your screen up to where you want to have your upper limit, making sure that it's a 1/2 inch lower than what you ultimately want it to be, you can press the My and the down button together at the same time. At any time, you can stop the motor. You can do this by pressing the My button or the up button. Once you've done this, you can now work the screen down to where you want the lower limit to be. We've now lowered the screen down to where we want the lower limit to be. We're keeping in mind to keep the crossbar 1/2 inch up off the floor, because once we save the settings to this motor, it's going to tick down that 1/2 inch. Once we have the screen set to that lower limit where we want it to be, the next step is to press the up button and the My button down at the same time. As you can tell, the motor stopped at that upper limit we just recorded, and it ticked up that 1/2 inch. Now that you've set your upper and lower limit, the last thing is to save those settings. To save the settings, it's a two-step process. The first is to press the My button down until the screen jogs up and down. The second step is to turn it over and use a screw or a pen and press the Program button down until it jogs up and down again. You now have your settings set and saved. If you are not satisfied with the limits set, you can perform what's called a double power cut and start the process over. The double power cut will reset the motor's memory. This is a two-step process. First, unplug the power cord from its power source for 5 seconds. Plug it back in for 10 seconds. Then unplug it again for 5 seconds and plug it back in. Our motorized retractable screen will retract in one direction for a few feet. In the second step, hold the Program button on the back side of the remote for several seconds until the motorized screen jogs up and down twice. The screen will jog up and down the first time after 2 to 3 seconds and the second time after 6 to 7 seconds. The motor's memory has now been reset and it can be reprogrammed. This process may not happen on your first attempt and may need to be retried, waiting for that second jog after 6 to 7 seconds. Well, that completes the installation process. We hope this instructional video has made the process quick and simple for you. Remember, you can always call your local sales representative or the Stowitt Industries offices with any questions. We'd be happy to help you.